The Emancipation Proclamation was an order issued to all segments of the executive branch, including the Army and Navy of the United States, by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863, during the American Civil War. It was based on the President's constitutional authority as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. It was not a law passed by Congress. It proclaimed that all those enslaved in Confederate territory to be forever free, and ordered the Army and all segments of the executive branch to treat as free all those enslaved in 10 states that were still in rebellion, thus applying to 3.1 million of the 4 million slaves in the U.S. The proclamation could not be enforced in areas still under rebellion, but as the Army took control of the Confederate regions, the slaves in those regions were emancipated rather than returned to their masters. From 20,000 to 50,000 former slaves in the region where rebellion had already been subdued were immediately emancipated, and over 3 million more were emancipated as the Union Army advanced. The proclamation did not apply to 5 slave states that were not in rebellion, nor to the most regions already controlled by the Union Army. Emancipation there would come after, which made slavery illegal everywhere in the U.S. The proclamation did not compensate the owners, did not itself outlaw slavery, and did not make the ex-slaves, called freedmen, citizens. It made the eradication of slavery an explicit war goal in addition to the goals of the reunited the Union. On September 22, 1862, Lincoln had issued a preliminary proclamation that would order emancipation of all slaves in any state of the Confederate States of America that did not return the Union control by January 1, 1863. None returned, and the order signed and issued January 1, 1863, took effect except in locations where the Union had already mostly regained control. The proclamation outraged white Southerners who envisioned a race war, angered some Northern Democrats, and energized anti-slavery forces and weakened forces in Europe that wanted to intervene to help the Confederacy. It also lifted the spirits of African Americans both in the Southern and Northern states, and led to many slaves escaping their masters and returning behind Union lines in order to have their emancipation enforced. Lincoln issued the proclamation under his authority as the Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy under Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. As such, he claimed to have the martial power to free persons held as slaves in those states which were in rebellion. He did not have the Commander-in-Chief authority over the 4 slave-holding states that were not in the rebellion: Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware, and so those states were not named in the proclamation. The 5th border jurisdiction, West Virginia, where slavery remained legal, had not yet achieved statehood. The Emancipation Proclamation was never challenged in court. To ensure the abolition of slavery in all of the U.S., Lincoln pushed for passage of the 13th Amendment. Congress passed it by the necessary 2/3 vote in February 1865, and it was ratified by the states by December 1865. The proclamation was issued in 2 parts. The first part, issued on September 22, 1862, was a preliminary announcement outlining the intent of the second part, which officially went into effect 100 days later, on January 1, 1863, during the second year of the Civil War. It was Abraham Lincoln's declaration that all slaves would be permanently freed in all areas of the Confederacy that had not already returned to the federal control by January 1863. The 10 affected states were individually named in the second part: South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, and North Carolina. Not included were the Union states of Maryland, Delaware, Missouri, and Kentucky. Also not named was the state of Tennessee, in which a Union-controlled military government had already been set up, based in the capital, Nashville. Specific exemptions were stated for areas also under Union control on January 1, 1863, namely 48 counties that would soon become West Virginia, 7 other named counties of Virginia, including Beckerly and Hampshire, counties which were soon added to West Virginia, New Orleans, and 13 named parishes nearby. Union-occupied areas of the Confederate States where the proclamation was put into immediate effect by local commanders included Winchester, Virginia, Corinth, Mississippi, the Sea Islands along the coast of the Carolinas and Georgia, Key West, Florida, and Port Royal, South Carolina.